World. This is Jeffrey, JGB146 Blake with Team Level 5, and of course, it's actually just me and Brendan here again with our special guest, Phinn Lynch. So we're here today to do kind of a review, a recap, a discussion about Worlds. I wasn't there, but these guys were, and they're going to tell you how it was as I go through and question them. With that, I guess we'll start with kind of intros. Finn, you're the special one, so you go first.
My name's Phinn Lynch. I run a website called cuttertap.com. I've been playing for maybe 8 years. Went to Worlds for, I think, the 5th time last weekend. And I like to play a lot of Pokemon.
Cool. Okay, Brendan. People should know you from our last time of doing this, but in case they don't.
Name's Brendan. Play out of Florida. If you consider what I do play Pokemon, that's what I like to do. 3rd competitive season, so see where we go.
Cool. Brendan, by the way, is enjoying a nice, hot, and sweaty walk in the Florida summer air because his AC is out. So, apologies for any weirdness that occurs. If he gets mugged, at least we'll have it on video.
Exactly.
All right, so once again, we'll start with Finn. Going into Worlds, what did you decide to play?
Well, on the Tuesday leading up to Worlds, I decided that I was just going to play the deck that my other teammates were going to use, which was a terrible choice because the deck is incredibly hard. It's Poipole Malamar, if you want to give it that name. We call it Infinity Stones, but it's this very strange deck that's like stall, but it's also the like checkmate strategy with Naganadel GX, and it's also just a Malamar deck, so it's kind of like 3 decks in 1 type of thing.
Okay.
So I used that for day 1 and for the Open. And I did not do well at either one because I was running on about 4 hours of sleep for the last 2 weeks, and each night, not total.
I mean, still, that's not enough.
Yeah,
but...
yeah. No. Still quite bad, and I hadn't tested it nearly enough, so I really, that was a big mistake. I definitely should not have done either of those things, but yeah.
So, if you had it to do all over again, I'm guessing you would play a different deck entirely, or just practice that one a whole lot more beforehand.
I think I would just play a different deck entirely. With the meta being so wide open, it was kind of hard to use that because it's sort of a deck that like predicts matchups and techs accordingly, and then it like deals with everything you prepare for, but it can take random, losses to weird decks you didn't expect, which definitely happened to me several times. So I think in hindsight, I would play probably Malamar. Even though I know it didn't do well, I think people were just playing bad lists. But yeah, in hindsight, I think I just wish I played Malamar for both days.
Okay. What about you, Brendan? What did you end up playing?
So I tested Dark Box for about a month. Was really sold on it. Played like 5 games against Charizard towards the week leading up to it. Got hit with some really nutty draws and Power Plant. Hopped off the deck, went to Malamar. And then I got sold on Pikarom because I thought it was a really good day 1 play. And then I just got Blacephalon right out of the tournament. So then I ended up playing Dark Box for the Open and didn't do well in that one either. I just really didn't get too much sleep the night before and some stuff occurred. And yeah. So, but if I could do it over again, I would definitely play probably Resha Green or Speedzard for day 1.
Okay. So I have you on film, and maybe I should include a clip right here, saying that you're not playing Pikarom.
My friends made fun of me the whole drive up to DC about, wow, way to meta manipulate. Like, of all these people that manipulate meta, and then you did the exact same thing. I was like, yeah, I guess I did it.
Well, I mean, I think that correctly predicting that Pikarom was going to be the most popular deck and then playing it anyway, I don't call that meta manipulation.
Yeah, no, it was bad manipulation.
It actually wasn't the most popular. Malamar was actually the most popular. If you look at the breakdown, they just broke it down into a bunch of different variants.
Okay, true.
I just kind of semantic. I just wanted to point that out.
No, I appreciate that. I keep hearing it both ways, and yeah, I've looked at the numbers, and you're right.
Yeah, I hit a lot of Malamar day one, and I also sat next to Malamar, and then it was weird.
It definitely answers the question, though, like, because I have always wondered a lot of times when there's decks that I think are pretty strong, and they just see no representation. And it's like, okay, was it that the deck wasn't as strong as I thought, or just that no one played it? But with Malamar, like, there's a whole lot of ways to build it, and a whole lot of bad lists. But it definitely had representation behind it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So, you both said you didn't get there day one at Worlds, and ended up playing in the Open. And I guess neither of you had a good run in either.
Yeah, pretty much.
Then we won't dwell on that. But, Finn, I do want to ask if you can elaborate a little bit more on this Infinity Stones concept.
Yeah, totally.
Now, I know there's articles on your website, so feel free to give another plug here.
Yeah, well, so I guess the first thing I'll say is there's several different ways you can go about the deck. Cameron Shinoy wrote an article for us, and that's on the site. He didn't go to Worlds. He was just a few points shy, so he was on the team and still testing with us, which made it really easy for him to write rather than one of us writing, since we're actually at the event. So anyway, the version that he likes is more oriented around taking 6 prizes than like stalling. So you can check out his list on Cut or Tap. It's the list is in the free section, but if you want to like read about the other details and matchups, that's behind a paywall. But my list is actually significantly different. Like I have stuff like Persian, the Make 'em Pay one. I have Giraffe Rig. He's got Viridian and U-turn board. I don't have those. There's several changes, but I kind of go for more of a stall mill strategy. I like to just stream Knockout Reviver every turn for a while I just set up everything, and then kind of go for the checkmate stinger play later on in most matchups. But I guess that's the kind of short version. You also use Shedinja, so like while you're using Knockout Reviver, you Shedinja different Pokemon, especially like your 2 prize options, so that if they have custom catchers, they can only get 1 prize out of you. You play what we call a Suicide Engine. Cameron kind of had that, but most of us are playing like it to a higher extent. Like we're playing 4 Sightseer, 2 to 3 Hapu, depending on the list, and then between 0 and 2 Ingo and Emmett. I think 1 or 0 is probably best. And then we only run like 1 to 3 Cynthia, depending on the list, and no Lily. Except for Hale. Hale still likes Lily. I don't know why. I feel like I'm kind of rambling here, but yeah, it's just like you try to go through the deck as fast as possible while you use Knockout Reviver, and then you just kind of stream an infinite board state that your opponent can't win until you either deck them or you try to go for that stinger strategy.
Okay. Where did the name Infinity Stones come from?
So Hale, by the way, I don't know if a lot of people know who Hale is in the first place, but Hale Obernolte got top 4 at the Open with this deck, and he's one of our teammates on Cutter Tab. And he called it Infinity Stones because something about each of the Pokemon in the deck relate to like the Infinity Stones in one way or another. I don't fully understand how it works. I haven't seen the movies, but and then the other reason was just because like we were like, this deck just beats everything. It's like when Thanos snaps, like it just decimates all. But obviously that did not play out like that for all of us. But But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a cool name. It makes sense to him, so we went with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned already that you had a lot of weird decks, but I'm going to go over to Brendan and say, Brendan, we've had Finn talking for a while, so you get to talk and say, what was the most weird or surprising deck that you ended up facing? It can be both Worlds and Open, or one from each, or whatever you want to do.
So I didn't play anything like super crazy, especially at Worlds. Like, I mean, everyone I played against just had it, so that was nice. But I sat next to a guy that popped open a theme deck in front of his opponent at Worlds, which was awesome. I didn't play against him, but my friend did, and I thought that was just the best thing. I played against like some greens Blacephalon deck that was really good. I don't know, that he just hit everything at the right times. I guess that was the weirdest thing I played against, but I played pretty straightforward stuff, honestly.
Did he have Reshazard in that?
I didn't see it. The game didn't last so long.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I played a lot of Blounds this week. I literally played like 5 between the 2 days.
Oh goodness. Okay.
Yeah, it was not fun.
Yeah. What about you, Finn? What was the weirdest of the weird decks that you faced?
Definitely this player from Japan. I can't remember his name, but he was using a deck that had what's it called? Tyrogue, I think, the one where you flip and put 3 damage counters. He had Lapras, the one that lets you pick up Misties. He had Jirachi, and then he had the tag team where you discard the supporters. I think it's like Psyduck, Slowpoke?
Yeah.
Slowpoke and Psyduck, yeah. So that was definitely the weirdest deck I faced. He destroyed me because it turns out he had double Faba, and that was really bad for me. I just did not understand how that deck was functioning. I thought it was bad, but
oh, I think it is.
That was a bad matchup. Strange enough. But yeah, I definitely think that was the strangest deck I faced.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like, I think one of the guys at Poke Beach got 9th place with a Slowduck deck, but it wasn't weird the way that you're describing. It was just straight, try to be consistent with that archetype somehow.
I think any Slowduck deck is kind of weird in my opinion.
Well, I agree, but not as weird as what
Yeah.
Finn's describing.
Double Faba.
But it makes sense, right? Because it's Japan. And while we're on the subject, how do you feel about the number of infractions that Shintaro Ito made over the course of the weekend? We'll start with Finn.
I didn't know he made any other ones past the taking too long to promote and then the evolving Poiple in the same turn. I don't know if there's other ones that I'm unaware of, but I do think it's highly suspicious, the evolving Poiple in the same turn as he benched it. I just feel like that's, I don't know, maybe it was a mistake. It's quite possible it was a mistake. I don't want to like witch hunt type thing, but it just makes me, I don't know, it seems fishy. And then I think the penalty they gave for, him taking too long to promote makes sense, because apparently he had been warned about it earlier in the tournament, and slow playing is a huge problem, especially at Worlds. So I think that was fair. I don't know. It's an awkward situation. It's a hard call. I think I agree with the judges, though.
I'm pretty sure that he may have actually gotten a slow play warning in his top 4 match against Tord. I know they had a couple points where they paused things and discussed, and I think that was one of the situations there, but people are probably going to tell me how wrong I am and explain better than I what actually happened. But anyway, Brendan, from your point of view, how did you feel about all that went down, or were you even paying attention to it at all?
I try not to look too much into like a lot of witch hunts, as Yeah, because it's just like he could have just like on the evolving thing. I can see where he just missed it and just evolved it, but also it does look bad, especially with the other stuff, like with the taking too long to promote and whatnot. But then again, like I don't know why he was take too long and try to slow play that. He had a pretty good. I think that's a pretty alright matchup. So I don't know. I'm not going out the witch hunt. Anyone,
Sure. Okay, so delving a little bit further into that, but with a less witch hunty kind of vibe, there are two kind of related issues that I've seen brought forth on Fontaine and Verbrink City that I just wanted to get quick opinions on. One, do you think that judges sort of play favorites with known players?
Absolutely.
Finn shaking his head yes, but reluctant to say any words.
I just wasn't sure if he was going to talk first, but I'll just go now. I think it's hard for me to say. I feel like I'm like a fairly known player, so my opinion is going to be sort of biased, right? Because like my interactions with judges would kind of be under that umbrella. I don't know, but I feel like they're fairly, they're pretty fair. It seems like I think they were a little bit too lenient. I think they are a little bit too lenient in general. I feel like judges should be a little bit more harsh and objective. It just seems like most of the time when the ruling stuff comes up, you hear about it in relationship to, known players. So it's it seems like they're easier on them because they're easier on everybody, and you only hear about those situations. Does that make sense?
It does. So the specific comparison that's been drawn was that there was a guy on Facebook who posted he was at NAIC and placed pretty high, and supposedly on his first infraction of slow play, he was given a double prize penalty. No warnings, no other infractions for anything prior to that. But he was like, I was a no-name player, that's how they treated me, and then to see Ito get all these warnings and stuff before any penalties actually hit the floor, he was taken aback. But yeah, it's also different judges, different events, so.
That's true. I just think like judge rulings are very inconsistent. Like one weekend it'll be like, oh, I did this and I got a 2 prize penalty, but the guy next to me next weekend did the same exact thing and he got a warning.
Sure.
And it might have nothing to do with favoritism between just players and whatnot. It's just like I feel like there's no consistency to any judge rulings.
Yeah. I agree with that. I feel there's a tendency in Pokemon for players to think like that they're getting the raw end of a deal in any regard. Like, oh, I'm unlucky, I lose more coin flips than I win, or I'm just a naturally unlucky player. And it's like players are just looking for ways to be the victim. Like, you're gonna notice the situations where you get the bad judge callings, and you're never gonna tell anybody when you get the one that's in your favor. Like, how many times has somebody gone on Hey Fontaine and been like, hey guys, a judge didn't give me a double prize penalty after I took 50 minutes to Pokemon. Like, you know what I mean? It's they're only looking for those, situations. So I think it's going to be impossible to tell if there is favoritism. It's going to depend on the judge. It's just too hard to tell. And I think overall, it's probably something fabricated out of people's distaste for their previous rulings.
Sure, I can see that. And in my former days as a poker player, like it's amazing the amount of things people can blame on bad luck and like other external factors when it's not necessarily any of those things. But getting back and specifically looking at slow play. I'm gonna put the iron to the fire and say, what do you think? Like, how do you think things should be applied? Do you think it should be just like, oh, you've hit 30 seconds, this decision needs to be done, go, and then penalty, like, first time it happens, or what do you think should happen specifically in a regional or higher event?
Well, I mean, my solution is just chess clocks. I've been on, a podcast talking about that in the past, and there's been tons of discussion about it. I think that just solves the problem straight up, and we don't even need to have the discussion past that. But, if that's not going to be a possibility, the next thing I would say is give us higher time limits in tournaments. And if that's not going to be a possibility either, yeah, I don't really have an answer. I just feel like they need to just fix it in ways outside of putting that burden on the judges.
Do you think that 15 seconds as the, quote unquote, average time per action is sufficient?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think I would have to play a game out where I was paying attention and tallying down how long each of my actions took to be able to answer that. I think it's probably about fair. I feel like you kind of deserve more time at Worlds though, because it's every single thing you do is going to be huge, right? And you've got $25,000 on the line, so I definitely understand why players take, significantly more time, sometimes twice as much time. It's when you have that amount of pressure on you, and especially when you're on camera, it's I can totally understand why they would need more time like that. But at the same time, I also see players blatantly abusing time rules and winning games as a result of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, like I said, it's just a really tough spot.
Yeah, for sure. I think it should be based off so best of one tournament's 15 second action is definitely good. But as I was saying, when you get into the 75-minute rounds when you're on stream and whatnot, for Top Cut, I think it should be a little bit longer per action and maybe a little bit more lenient about it, because you are under pressure. There's just so much more on stake than the casual Swiss round.
Okay.
And especially if it's in some scenarios where it's your first warning or whatnot.
Sure. Sure. Okay. So backing away from all that now, let's get back. I've got a couple more questions about Worlds and then some questions about specific decks. So I guess first off, overall in Worlds, if you had to pick one card that had the most impact in the set of games that you personally played, what card would you say that was?
B-String. I got dumped on my B-String all 2 days. Yeah, every time I stamp someone, they have 3 more B-Strings, so happened too many times. But probably as a whole, Welder was a huge card in the tournament. Pretty much every big deck ran it.
Mm-hmm.
Just consistent.
Do you think it's to the point that Welder is too good?
No, it's not, because I'm sure soon there will be something that balances it. It's not really that broken. It just makes decks consistent.
Okay. What about you, Finn?
Probably Custom Catcher. I think that is a huge part of the format right now. I'm also a little bit more biased towards giving that answer because I'm playing a deck where one of the only ways you can beat me is by using double Custom Catcher twice. And that's not even supposed to work very much of the time. But anyway, that's aside from the point. But yeah, I just feel drawing double Custom Catcher at the right time, or just including it or not including it in lists, is probably the most significant thing. Those gust effects are always huge in every single format. It's really hard to pick one card, but that's probably what I would pick.
Okay, that makes sense. I wasn't there, so my opinion, counts less. But that's actually the reason that I like fire archetypes right now, because you don't have to have the double custom catcher to get the gust effect. It feels like such an advantage. Like you're almost cheating sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I agree.
And then the other thing I wanted to ask was sort of the overall meta. What was your feeling about what the meta was going to look like before Worlds, and then how do you think it's changed since then?
So leading up to Worlds, my prediction was that Pika would be the most popular, Malamar would be second most popular, and Reshizard would be third, but like not really a close third. I figured those first two were going to be like the most dominant, and then after that I was thinking like Dark Box, Blounds, other stuff, but it was like those first two are going to be big, this one's going to be big-ish, and then the rest are all kind of just trailing off kind of thing. And I feel like Worlds pretty much, that was like fairly close. Like Malamar was bigger than Pikarom, so I had the order a little bit off, and then Reshizard was third. Dark Box saw a lot less play, so I think I was wrong about that. But after Worlds, I'm thinking the meta stays fairly similar, but obviously Mewtwo gains a lot more popularity and Blounds gains a lot more popularity. In Dark Box, I feel like people aren't even really considering anymore unless your last name is Kreckler. So, yeah, I guess maybe some stall mill things since the Rangaroo Pidgeotto deck top 8'd.
I don't understand how that top 8'd. Every time I've played it, it's been like just easy. I don't know, maybe the people I'm playing just really, really suck with it or something, but I've never come close to losing to it.
I've been testing it. I like the deck a lot, personally. I think it's pretty hard to use. I mean, not extremely hard to use, but it's kind of like the type of deck where if you misplay once, you can lose the whole game as a result.
So,
that sounds like a hard deck to use.
I mean, I guess
better though. So
I guess what I mean when I say it's not necessarily a super hard deck to use is like the plays you're supposed to be making are usually pretty straightforward. So it's like it's just a matter of not doing some like stupid slip up. It's not necessarily about being really smart about what you do. You know what I mean? It's just like not making mistakes. I feel like.
Yeah. It's also easy to play the deck when it's running, but when it runs cold, you have to know how to play yourself in situations. Like it's very awkward sometimes.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. I think going forward that deck would be really good, especially with like Jesse and James coming out in standard.
Oh yeah. Big
that
time.
deck's really good.
Yeah, that definitely helps them a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so two decks that weren't really on people's radar a whole lot, and that's the Mew and Mewtwo box, and then Guardian. So, do you think, I guess, to what extent do you think Mew Mew would have done worse, if people had just been playing more power plants?
Well, it played a lot of good counters to the power plant. I mean, I feel like it can draw out of it really well since it plays the 4 stadium and the 5 stadium? Yeah, 5 stadium and the fucking Marshadow. Oh my bad, Marshadow. Yeah, no, I think it's just so good that you can just search out a Marshadow and just get rid of the stadium right there with the treasure. Like, I feel like power plant maybe would have helped, but I don't think it would have overall like affected the result too much. Also, Guardian was insane, and I tested it like for months up to it.
I mean, there was plenty of Guardian in day 2. It saw a good amount of popularity, like as much popularity as a lot of other, top tier archetypes. And yeah, I mean, between 4 counter stadiums and Marshadow, I think that's sufficient considering how few turns Mewtwo needs to win a game. You know, it's like, it's not a situation where you're like, okay, I got 6 turns, I'm gonna keep dropping these power plants and maybe I play Lusamine, you know, whatever. It's like you lost by your 4th turn a lot of the time, so it's just, you're trying to keep up with their aggression and keep hitting power plants when you probably only play 2 and no way to recover them. It's just not enough.
I actually agree with all of that. My testing with Meebox definitely kind of said the same things. I didn't care when people had power plant at all.
Yeah.
What do you think a good counter is?
Oh, Latios GX.
Okay.
I mean, that's only relevant for Malamar decks, and I mean, unless you're also playing Mewtwo. But yeah, I don't understand how Mewtwo Box actually deals with Latios. I feel like you just use Tag Purge the whole time. How do they? I don't know how they answer that.
Yeah, that's a good question, actually.
And you can use Clear Vision. Sorry to interrupt you. You can use Clear Vision at the start so that they can't even take prizes by using Espeon's GX later.
Yeah, that's pretty strong. Like, there's just like, I don't think there's any clear counters. I feel like you can counter very easily people that don't really know how to play the deck, people that casually play it at cups, by like just getting in awkward situations. But anyone that knows how to play that, I don't think there's like a clear counter to it.
Stamp's a pretty good counter to it, just in general. At least for me personally. Like, if you're playing Guardian and you want to beat, if you play like 2 power plants, 2 stamp, and Lusamine, that actually could get there, you know, because a stamp to 1 or 2 combined with power plant is pretty good. If they haven't already benched the Marshadow.
Well, I mean, if you're playing Guardian, you just want to have your abilities Fairy Charm on. And...
Oh yeah, no, that deck definitely I feel like has a very good matchup versus it, I guess. But it's just like, it loses so hard to Reshizard. That deck, I feel like is big Reshizard.
Honestly, I just forgot about that Fairy Charm ability. Now that I think about it, I don't understand how Mewtwo is beating it, actually.
Well, they play a copy of Reshi and they'll just use it.
Yeah, like...
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
They put up the any deck puts up the dragon, the Guardian just loses. It's really bad.
Well, I mean, also the GX attack's pretty good. I was saying Stamp works, but I was like, wait, actually, you can just power plant and give them 0 cards. That's even better, if you can get them.
Yeah. Alright, so final question, and then we'll wrap things up. What deck are you currently planning to play moving forward? Like, at your next event, if you had to pick a deck right now, what would you play?
Like if Atlantic City was tomorrow, because that's my next like major event, I'd probably just use Malamar. Not Poipole Malamar, just like straight up Psychic Malamar.
Okay.
Just like a consistent list that I know beats Mewtwo and Zard and does pretty good against Pika. Just a real consistent list.
Okay. Well, I'm curious about that. Do you have Espeon in there or no?
I don't. I prefer Dawnwing's GX personally, but I know Espeon is very strong. It definitely has a decent chance of ending up in the list. I don't know. I really don't like the card. I'm probably just being like biased because I just don't like it, but like I don't know.
I feel the same way. I feel like it's better than I want to let it be.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel.
I actually just straight up lost that card like turn 1 at the open. I started Sneasel Ditto pass, and he went, "Oh, sorry, Deoxys GX for game." I'm like, "Oh, let's go home."
I had that happen to me once or twice as well. It's really good if they can do it quickly. You're like, I lose.
For sure.
No chance. That's what's so strong about Mewtwo, actually. Like, if there's, I don't know if people even realize this. Like, some people probably, a decent amount of people probably do, but You just attach Psychic, Welder when you go first, and then on your next turn, you're like Welder again, attach again, and then I'll use Espeon Deoxys' GX attack and put down 20 damage counters.
Yeah, that's insane.
Insane. Like, how do you deal with that if you're anything that evolves? You just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess you clear vision turn 1.
That's the dream.
Does it even cost Psychic? Or is it colorless?
It's a Psychic. Yeah, it's one Psychic.
Yeah.
Oh, it is Psychic.
That could be way too good if it was a colorless.
Yeah, and it's got free retreat. It's a good card. Underrated card.
Definitely underrated. Yeah. If I had to play, like, since I have a cup this weekend, I'm playing the Beat Zard list. I think that deck's really good for cups. But if I was to play like a bigger event, I'd honestly probably play a couple cards off that control list.
Okay.
I think it's actually really strong. I think it has like an okay, like it has a really good Reshizard matchup, which I think is going to be very popular again. And then I think it has an okay Mewtwo matchup. Yeah, as long as they don't like Deoxys, you turn 1 and knock out like all your Pidgeys.
They can do that though.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's pretty strong.
I feel like if you go second, you lose against Mewtwo because of that.
Probably. Well, I think there's 60 HP Pidgeys, aren't there?
Oh
I think
yeah,
that would help. That would help a lot.
that actually would make a huge difference.
So, I don't know. That's what I would be leaning towards and probably testing a lot for Atlantic City.
I mean, even if they don't get it turn 1 though, it's like even if they get like turn 3 and they're dropping 20 damage counters, that's 3 Pidgeotos done.
Yeah, that's very true.
I don't know.
You have to have like the immediate answer of Articuno, and like Stamp and everything else. So yeah, I guess like again, I'd be testing it, but I don't know. So a weird deck.
Okay. Well, with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up today. Thanks to both of you for coming on the show here. And start final round with Finn once again. Go ahead, if there's anybody you want to shout out, any plugs you want to give, now's the time.
Yeah. Big shout out to my team members, Team Cuttertap. Do coaching with me if you need some help. Shoot me a message or an email at cuttertap@gmail.com. Check my website, cuttertap.com. Shout out to B-Walls. That's about it.
I can attest to Finn's coaching. He helped me a lot last year. So, Brendan, any shout outs?
Just shout out to Team LV5 for a great sponsorship. Shout out to you for having me on the show again. Yeah, and honestly, that's about it.
Okay.
I'll do shout out too much.
Well, thanks.
No problem.
One thing that I want to say, actually 2 things I'm going to say before we completely wrap up. One is a plug for the monthly tournament that we're running now. We give away real prizes. Last month we gave away the first half of this booster box. Not quite the first half, but this month we're giving away the rest of it. And yeah, so go on Facebook, use the link down below for any of the things we talked about. Finn's website. Yeah, I think it's basically your website and now this, but links down below in what I call the doobly-doo. It's going to catch on with the Pokemon community too. And yeah, you can play for free and win PTCGO packs, or you can pay $5 and a pack goes into a prize pool. All of the prize packs get sent out to physical people. And it doesn't matter if like you don't make cut. If you're in what would have been cut of the paid player tier, then you get the packs even if you miss cut overall. So free people playing don't take away from your prizing.
So it's online?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And I'm like keeping track of it, like every month is a cup, and eventually we're going to try to do some like single day events that are like challenges, and I'm like tracking CP and stuff, and we'll do something cool later that I don't have figured out yet, but yeah. The other thing I want to say is, please, if you liked this video, want to see some more of this content, go ahead and subscribe, click that like button, And yeah, if you have questions, ask. And I'll address everything I can. But if you want to hear from a specific person, Finnegan or Ghost Brendan, then go ahead and specifically address it to them. With that, we'll go ahead and sign off for today.